Hello, this is Mark from My Keys to Music. Thanks for joining me on this video. I often get questions where people want to imitate sounds on their Nord Electro 5, Nord Electro 6, the Nord Piano 4-5, the Grand even, where, hey, we have the ability to play a sample. I want to be able to imitate certain sounds. And for the most part, you can do that. There's certain exceptions to that where you don't really have a pitch stick built in on those keyboards. You don't have a lot of the synth attributes such as monophonic, the ability to do glide, although the latest version of the Piano 5 can actually do glide, which was an interesting surprise when that came out. But the Electro 6, for example, doesn't have a pitch stick. There's no modulation wheel, so there's really no vibrato either. So all of these keyboards that don't have a built-in synth engine are limited by what sounds they can imitate simply because they don't have the necessary controls and the necessary ingredients to make those sounds like they sound originally, which traditionally comes from a synthesizer, not a stage keyboard, not a piano keyboard, not a digital piano keyboard, not an electromechanical emulation keyboard. They come from a synthesizer. So you can't necessarily imitate those sounds easily. But there are exceptions to that rule in many ways because all of those keyboards that I mentioned can play samples. So if you can play a sample, then why can't you record the sound that you want, assign it to the keys on your Electro 5 and 6, for example, or your Piano 5, and play it? And you can. So one example of where a sound came originally from a synthesizer keyboard, it was from the song from Del Shannon called Runaway. It has a very interesting and unique synthesizer, almost a high-pitched, very bright, buzzy sound, which is very unique. We're able to create that or recreate that on the Nord Stage 3 because the Nord Stage 3 has a synth engine built in. But a question often comes up, well, what if we want that sound on the Electro? Well, sometimes you can actually find ready-made synthesizer-like sounds or emulated synthesizer sounds directly from the Nord sample library. You just have to look for them. There's a whole section here for synthesizer. And if you read closely, you'll see that the names of those sounds are hinted back at whatever keyboard they were sampled from. So this particular sound is very unique, and I don't think there's a sample in the Nord sample library that would imitate it very well. Maybe there is. I haven't looked at every single sample. But I decided to go ahead and record the Stage 3, take that sound, put it into the computer, make a sample from it using the Nord sample editor, and then putting it back on the Electro 5. So I'll do a quick performance here on the Electro 5 just to give you an idea. If you want to see the original video that I did featuring the Nord Stage 3 and a full discovery of the song and some of its history and lore, then you can certainly get a link down below in the description, and I'll put another link up here in the video so you can click on that and see the original. But this will come in handy. Now, if you want to get these sounds for your Electro 5 or your Electro 6, I actually made programs for them or bundles so they can be retrieved at my Patreon account. I made a post featuring the Del Shannon song where you can download those for the Stage 3. I have recently added the Electro 5 and the Electro 6. I also have a Nord Piano 5 on the way, and maybe I'll do it for that one too, just as a nod to that sound, because it doesn't require a pitch stick. It doesn't really require glide in any way. So it's one of those candidates that fits the narrow profile of when you can use your Electro, your non-synth Nord keyboard, for a true synthesizer sound. That's all I have. Enjoy the performance. If you have any questions, leave a comment. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. So the name of the program is called Runaway. We have the black upright piano positioned here on the part lower. You can see piano is selected, and it sounds like this. And then for the upper part, that's the synth solo. And you can just switch back and forth very quickly by pushing both buttons at the same time. There'll be a similar setup for you on the Electro 6, except on the Electro 6 you have the piano button here and you have the synth button here. So you can just push both at the same time and you'll turn the piano off, turn the synth on, and continue the song that way. So this is a sample. This particular synth sound is a sample from the Nord Stage 3. So in a sense, you have a Nord keyboard family member acting as part of the contribution to this sound. And I think it came out pretty good. Like I said, I do have some EQ happening and some reverb, but I think it's fairly authentic to the original sound. And voila, we can play it on an Electro, which is always a challenge because the Electro is not a synthesizer. It can play synth samples, but like I mentioned earlier in the video, you generally have to have a very square box that it fits in. It's not always easy to make the Electro sound like a synthesizer. But this sound works perfectly.